Hey there friends, it's Ali, and Elden Ring's difficulty doesn't come from its gameplay. The difficulty is being able to find enjoyment in it. So recently, my boyfriend got me into Elden Ring. For a long period of time, that was the game that we would play religiously every single weekend. We'd get home, get into our pajamas, and turn on the PlayStation, getting ready for a relaxing experience of yelling at Melania for being a broken pile of junk.
Blade of Mikola.
I know.
The perfect date night. Before he was in my life though, I had tried plenty of Souls games before. None of them quite managed to capture my interest though. When Bloodborne came out on PS Plus, I thought that surely this is the one. This is the one where I become so immersed in its gameplay and the lore and everything else juicy in between that I would inevitably spend hours of my time immersed in this dark and forsaken world. But it turns out my soul is more interested in vanishing slimes. It's not like I'm put off the idea of having a challenging game. I've made plenty of games harder for myself in the past for no apparent reason. I forced myself to suffer through God of War 2015 on the hardest available difficulty. I played Tomodachi Life only making people I know and are friends with in real life. The island was very empty. And Spider-Man, I played all of it without swinging on a web even once. Okay, that never happened, but you get the idea. My point is, having a hard game isn't something I shy away from. If anything, it just makes me feel more accomplished once it's been completed. It's like a reward knowing that I made my life more difficult than what it needed to be, and yet I still pushed through it. The Souls games are known to be some of the hardest games ever made. Despite their difficulty though, they're known to be some of the greatest games ever made too. The reviews speak for themselves. Ignore Dark Souls 2, that one doesn't count. I've always wanted to experience them though. I felt like I've been missing out for a long time, so I eventually caved and thought, hey, maybe the open world version is more for me. So I waddled over the game, bought Elden Ring, stopped at the nearest Starbucks for a celebratory coffee, and then ran home, too excited to even take a second to breathe. Booting up the game and being met by an endless amount of customization, I was sure that this would be the game for me. After all, I'm the type of person who spends all my time playing The Sims by custom content shopping and making The Sims, hardly ever experiencing any other gameplay, so this was an excellent start. I think the first character I made was a bandit, but it's been so long I can hardly even remember. After making the character, dying immediately to the entry boss and completely ignoring the tutorial hole, I looked around and I was completely lost. Saw a guy on a horse, died, went over to a cathedral looking thing, met Santa and then died, kept accidentally crouching mid-fight from the absolute tension of killing one of these things, and then I turned the game off for about 2 months and completely forgot about it.
Greetings, traveller from beyond the fog.
I've never been a massive fan of open world games. My problem with them is that they can intimidate me too much. Not in the sense that I don't think I can do it. Of course I can manage to run through an empty field as Link and beat Gandalf to death with a broom, but I just feel like every step I take I'm missing something. Some games aren't as bad with this. For example, Red Dead Redemption 2. I've never had this problem. Granted, I've never finished the game, but I still managed to play through most of it without my brain having a mini heart attack about missing a house that could have been looted. I don't know if that's because you can see pretty much everything and there's easy paths to follow, but I quite like the design of that open world game. Obviously, for those who have played Elden Ring anyway, Elden Ring is absolutely massive. There's no denying that it is honestly bigger than my future in every sense of the word. If I tried to talk about every single area, it would take us days. So you start in West Limgrave where you find all your essential loot. Here you'll find Santa and a giant man on a horse who absolutely ruins your day. Bears, 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 and more bears. Seriously, like someone opened a bear factory and forgot to close the door. Be careful of the castle, you'll probably die, or worse, get stuck in a perpetual loop of trying not to die. The real fight begins here. It's like a fancy dinner party where everyone's idea of fun is stabbing you repeatedly. This place is like Hogwarts on steroids. The views are breathtaking, but so is the likelihood of getting killed by a spell, and that's nowhere near the full list. But I'm tired of this already. I think that anyone can agree that it is a pretty big game. Even thinking about it feels like a giant task. So, logically, this game should really be my worst nightmare, and trust me, it was. Why do you think I didn't touch it for months? Too many things to do, too many things to look at. I've never really understood the full hype around open world games. Don't get me wrong, I completely understand the concept of them. It's amazing. Having a cyber city to run around in and shoot any civilian you want on the street, riding around on the back of a horse and accidentally throwing it off a cliff, parkouring around zombies in a cityscape, barely getting away because you messed up a jump on the smallest wall in the history of walls. That all sounds fantastic, and some of them genuinely are. I spent hours of my life in a handful of open world games, but only a handful. Maybe I'm just super fussy, maybe there's actually a flaw of how they're designed, who really knows. One thing that was for sure though is that the way that Elden Ring was designed was a massive open world that was next to infinite areas to explore. It was certainly a bit too much for me. With absolutely no idea where to go, what to do, or how to apparently get girls.
However, you are maidenless.
It just wasn't my cup of tea.
Torrent has chosen you.
Months down the line, and me and my other half are sitting bored in the games room when he has the world's best, but at the time worst idea, to guide me through Elden Ring. He's recently been on a mad one since the DLC has been announced and he wants to share the experience with me. You know how it goes from there, he gives me the puppy dog eyes, I try to resist, but he's too persistent, and so the disc is back in the PlayStation. I spend just as much time creating a character as before, but now I go with the prisoner. After a bit of discussion about what type of combat I'm most interested in, of course I went with some magical whimsical thing. Despite how much I hated the way I looked, I listened to him and just went along with it. The first thing that was different was the fact I actually did the tutorial. He showed me the hole and I dived headfirst into it and beat the little mini boss, but not really a boss knight, and yelled with how amazing I was. Leaving the hole, opening the door again, and I'm greeted with the same man telling me to get bitches, but now I know what a bitch is. I'm told to go over in this direction, see this here, yeah, that way. I'm also politely told to ignore the man on a horse entirely. So, back over to church, say hello to Santa, and off I go in the direction that I'm supposed to go. From that point on in the game, his guidance was only given as and when requested. So it wasn't as annoying as Morgana telling you to sleep every 2 seconds.
You know where you can go? To sleep.
But he was there when I wanted him to be. My own personal GPS for the game. Now, he's used to being passenger princess in practically every aspect of our lives, but with Elden Ring, he was thoroughly enjoying the experience. At least I hope he was. Baby, were you having fun watching me play Elden Ring?
Yeah!
He said, and I quote, it was like getting to enjoy the game for the first time all over again. So he also got something out of this as well, which is the important thing. Back to the whole guiding thing though. With Alex with me, I honestly found it a lot more doable. I didn't feel like I was missing something all the time when I had someone with me who knew the game so well. He could point me in the right direction subtly, being like, there's a cool thing down there. Obviously in Elden Ring, there isn't a mission book or anything like that to keep track of what you need to do, or an exact marker on where you need to go. I don't think this would make it any better though, to be honest. If you're just told exactly where to go all the time in the game like this, it would definitely ruin what they've been trying to achieve with the sense of adventure and the ability to go wherever you want, when you want. As much as I'd love to give an exact answer on what would perhaps be a good solution for this, apart from sending everyone their own Alex in the mail, I don't really think I can. I'm not a game designer, much as I would love to be one, so trying to think of an exact answer for what would solve the help there's too much to do problem, I really just don't think I can. The main thing that playing with Alex gave me was the ability to tell him to shut up when I didn't want to know. There were moments in the game where I wanted to wander off and ignore the task at hand because of a cool looking building over there, which led me down an entirely different path for hours at a time. If there was a waypoint marker guiding you the entire time, I'd just simply follow it. Maybe have it so Melina showed you the way or something if you asked? I'm not sure. Either way, the only reason I've started playing the game again was because of the additional help from him. There's obviously the external bias that I love him, and that doing anything at all with him around is just better, but even trying to put that aside, I think that it would have been a better experience simply having anyone there at all to point me in the right direction. I understand that a part of the difficulty is the fact that you don't know where to go. You don't know what it is you're doing half the time. If you had a massive beacon telling you, hey, go over here and you'll get some pretty sweet sword, bro, then it would completely eliminate not only a layer of difficulty, but also a massive layer of fun and the sense of discovery. The great thing about Alex is that he wouldn't tell me where I was going to, not once. He'd ask questions like,
do you want a better weapon? What about a cool spell?
And then he'd point me in the general direction of the thing. I'd never really know what the thing was. I would have missed a large amount of things that I loved using in this game if it wasn't for him. The best example I can think of is this sick ass witch hat and robe from Rani and that entire side quest.
Oh, mountain of fire!
The combat in Elden Ring is renowned to be one of the most difficult aspects of the game, especially when you first start off. Trying to play the game by myself, everything about my gameplay was entirely wrong. The thing with the combat is that you have to be very precise. Each and every battle, even against the simplest of enemies, can be a challenge if you don't know their moves. Every enemy has a distinct attack pattern that needs to be memorized and countered effectively. I practically never did this. I thought I could just tank it, which obviously didn't work. Like, once. With so many different enemy types, this only makes the task of learning different attack styles 1,000 times more difficult. You've got knights with swords, monsters with magical powers, giant crabs, and even bears that look like they've been hitting the gym too hard. It's like an evil zoo out there. Resource management is another fatal flaw that I just couldn't wrap my head around. You need to manage your health, stamina, and magic, which sounds simple enough until you realise there's a wide range of different items that you can make, eat, or shove up your ass and to survive. There is absolutely no way they can expect the newbie to know exactly what to use and when to use them without some serious trial and error. My inventory was a chaotic mess of random items that I'd hope would save me in a pinch. Spoiler alert, they didn't. Don't even get me started on the boss battles. To be honest, I don't even want to get into it. It's like taking a final exam you didn't study for, but instead of failing, you get mercilessly crushed over and over again. Each boss is like a puzzle that needs to be solved, with multiple attempts required to figure out their patterns and weaknesses. It's less fight and more just try not to die in the first 30 seconds. I couldn't do this. Now, when it comes to combat, it was more of a tag team effort to kill something, which made the world of a difference. Obviously, we didn't bother doing that with the smaller enemies. What would be the point? But the bosses, we would both have attempts at. If he ever got close to defeating one of them, he'd stand there and sacrifice himself to the Elden Ring gods, since he wanted me to experience the game myself. Being able to watch the boss fight from the perspective of an innocent onlooker enabled me to be able to learn their moves just that little bit faster. Of course, there were times where I'd get called an only child because I didn't want him to have a go, because I swear to God I was going to defeat Godfrey by myself. I don't need you, Alex. But the times where I wasn't being so stubborn, simply being able to literally watch and learn was fantastic. Not to mention, he was just overall engaging too. As obvious as it may sound, he's a very supportive boyfriend who would constantly praise me on how amazing and fantastic I was, even though I knew he was lying right to my face. That little confident boost always helps. Alongside actual technique in combat, he also better explained to me what it was that everything in the game actually does, and when I should probably use a certain thing, like smithing stones. He told me about bell bearings, which trust me saved a lot of time, and what type of weapons I would probably like. So I never touched daggers. Not long enough for me. In essence, playing with someone who knows the game turned each frustrating moment into a learning opportunity. When I was ready to give up, I would step in, offer some guidance, or just make it a bit of a laugh, keeping the experience enjoyable. So whilst Elden Ring might be known for its punishing difficulty, having a co-pilot like Alex made the journey not just bearable but actually fun. I know people will massively disagree with the vast majority of this video, claiming that Elden Ring is the type of game where you're supposed to struggle at every single corner and rage quit 24/7, but if it was just that, I never would have played it at all. It's ended up being one of my favourite games ever now, but if I didn't have my additional help, I never would have even given it a proper chance in the first place. Now though, it holds a very special place in my heart, not just because of the difficulty, but because of the opportunities it gave me to improve and learn, I suppose. But what do I really know? I'm just going to end the video here.